Hi, my name is Amy O'Donnell. I'm the Director of Communications here at Texas Alliance for Life, and I'm welcoming you to this week's TAL Update. I have the privilege this week of interviewing three of our board members. Our board president, Joseph Kinlan, and board members Debbie Juhlke and Terry Williams are joining us today to share their experience from the Called and Missioned Men's Conference. Now, you may think it's interesting women attended a men's conference, but it just so happens that Terry Williams is a CareNet Center Services specialist, trainer, and consultant. So she knows the heart behind the conference and, of course, was there to experience it in person. Terry, can you tell our viewers today, why did CareNet put on a men's pro-life conference?
Well, thank you for joining and welcome. Texas Alliance for Life. I'm proud to be a part of this work, as well as my work with CareNet National since 2008. We affiliate close to 1,200 life-affirming pregnancy centers in the United States. So in my work with them, I was able to just help with the Texas Center, the Texas staff members that were a part of this conference. We had 502 men who came and were registered and attended what I would call 1.5 day conference. And so the heart of that, well, CareNet is so focused on the woman and her support system. And after a recent study that was actually done by CareNet, we realized once again that women 76% of the time will say that the number one person in their lives, the number one influence in their lives when it comes to making a decision for life for their unborn child is indeed the father of the baby or the baby's dad. And that is such an amazing piece of information, something we do know. But also, if we're not, as part of a pregnancy center body, reaching out to the father of the baby or the baby's dad, then we are not doing our job well. And as a part of that, we have a big fatherhood initiative or concentration. But more than that, just a challenge to men in general, and hence the title, Called and Mission. This is just a challenge to men in general across the nation to step up and fulfill their destiny, their biblical destiny, to be called to be fathers, whether it's to the fatherless or to those that they've actually fathered, and also mission to reach out as part of a church body or as part of a pregnancy center and to reach out to them. So the speakers that were there, that was their challenge, to look at the biblical perspective behind fatherhood, from Ruth and Boaz in the Bible. Some of you may recall that story where Boaz was Ruth's kinsman redeemer and came alongside the widow, to Jesus himself, who had an earthly father named Joseph. And then also we were challenged by Dr. Tony Evans, pastor, Urban Initiative, leader, and just a great man of God, to understand that when a man is healthy, then his family is healthy. And when his family is healthy, the community is healthy. And when the community is healthy, a state is healthy. And when a state is healthy, a world is healthy. And not in a chauvinistic way at all, but in a powerful way, biblical way, and a way that just makes sense. And so that was CareNet's heart.
I love that messaging, really empowering men and reminding them how important they are and why we need them so much to lead our families and communities and to play that active role, especially when it comes to the life issue. So Joseph, you were there in the room as both a board member of this organization, a pro-life male. What was it like sitting in the room with 512, did you say, Terry, other men?
502.
502. I added 10 already. 502 men. And I imagine they were there for all different reasons. But what was it like being a male in attendance? And what was your perspective just sitting and observing these men around you taking in this experience?
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank Texas Alliance for Life's update here and you, Amy, for approaching this topic because it is very, very important that men be involved. I think this was the first of its kind of conference specifically for pro-life men, as far as I'm aware. And so being at a pro-life men's conference surrounded by like-minded men, it was informative. As Terry talked about, there were some statistics that CareNet research has done. It was really eye-opening, and it was encouraging because we had there were Caucasian men, there were Hispanic men, there were Black men of all races were there. And as one of the speakers said, there isn't a brown church, there isn't a Black church, there isn't a white church, there's only God's church. And so it was really a clarion call to men to not only passively support the cause of life, but to take an active role in this battle. And it really is a battle. And as Terry talked about, we were able to do this conference at Dr. Tony Evans' church up in Dallas. And he preached to us that any abortion is an attack on God, as he is the image giver. Even if you're not religious, you only have to believe in science, as it's been very clear that the developing baby is in fact another human being. So, I mean, it was just really eye-opening and encouraging, and another clarion call for men to become involved. And I think what was really, really helpful for us men was that there were several women from CareNet who spoke too. It wasn't just men speakers, but there were several of them had abortion stories and who had abortions in their past. And they talked about the need for women to have men in this fight. And it was, as Terry talked about, some of the statistics really shed light on why the abortion industry tells men that if they don't have a womb, to sit down and shut up. It's because if men become involved, and this was my biggest takeaway, if men become involved, then the statistics for women choosing life in an unplanned pregnancy situation rose dramatically. I think we talked about it exceeding 90%. If the father will tell her that he will support her emotionally, financially, and optimally through marriage, those decisions rise dramatically. And we were also told that the father is absent, but there is in fact a network of support for the mother, then the decisions for life still exceed 80%. And that really highlights the importance of the well-funded Alternatives to Abortion program that we have here in the state of Texas, and the role that pregnancy resource centers play in the care of women and these children.
I wanted to add to that because Joseph did talk about the roles that men can have within the pregnancy center. And so there were there was a Texas side meeting, and about 50 men attended it, and 33 of them were actual staff members or volunteers at pregnancy centers in Texas. And they are now themselves beginning to meet, come together to pray, to support one another, to network, and to bring in other men to work in life-affirming pregnancy centers across Texas. And we had just a meeting about an hour ago with some of these men and the Texas directors that I meet with weekly. And some of the men were on, and two of the men were actually at the pregnancy center this day, and had just had amazing conversations with fathers whose partners were pregnant with their child and talking to them about what it looks like to be a dad, whether marriage is in the picture or co-parenting or just stepping up and doing the right thing. And that is so encouraging for us as women to know that not only do we have men who work with us that are going to change light bulbs and move the heavy furniture, that happens. But as one of the attendees said, every time I go up to the pregnancy center to volunteer and to do something I think is menial or not real important, God brings a man into that building that I need to talk to.
Wow.
And that's so powerful. And I think that the men's conference just commissioned, not gave permission to, but commissioned men in general, as Joseph has said so well, to no longer sit down and shut up. Planned Parenthood and abortion providers are wrong. Men are important. Women are important. Family is important.
That's beautiful. Joseph, I felt like you were going to chime in there with something.
Well, I was going to say, we call it mentoring, but let me give a sports analogy and use that vocabulary. We're very comfortable with men who coach younger men in sports. Well, that's what we're talking about, is coaching them in fatherhood and being that example and giving them advice and helping them walk the walk and talk the talk. And it plays such an incredibly huge role in their child's life and in the decision for life.
Absolutely. Men stepping in to support, it does change the atmosphere. It does help people to recognize that they're not in that situation alone. And so in this case, the situations we're talking about are people facing unplanned pregnancy. So men coaching other men that they can be fathers, men coaching other men that they can choose to co-parent, even if they choose not to marry their girlfriend or the girl who got pregnant with their baby. And so I think men being involved in any arena is of a high value. Absolutely. I love that. Debbie, we haven't heard from you yet today. One of the things that somebody mentioned, I believe it was Terry or Joseph, was the diversity represented in the room. I know that touched your heart, and you were there both as a TAL board member, but you also run an organization called Embrace Life Initiative. Can you tell those listening today a little bit about your organization and how you were looking at the conference from the lens of an organization leader, and how you want to bring some of what was shared to the people that you're reaching in the community?
Well, thank you, Amy. I am definitely honored to serve on the board for Texas Alliance for Life, and I really thank CareNet for putting on this conference. It was an awesome conference. I'm with Embrace Life. We educate, mobilize, and support families. Our main thing is to make sure that families are understanding that it doesn't have to be a crisis pregnancy, but before that pregnancy, during that pregnancy, and after that pregnancy, we still have life. And the biggest takeaway that I had from the conference to bring back to our Embrace Men in terms of fatherhood, the word coaching is what we're using rather than mentoring in our dialogue with the men. But the main thing is the church, understanding that the church and the church involvement, and how do we motivate and get the church doing the things that will need to be done. First of all, stop, shunning the women who have an unplanned pregnancy. Joseph mentioned one of the stories talking about her situation and being in the church and not feeling welcome. That happens a lot. We hear that a lot, that they left and they don't come back because they were not loved on. They were not made to feel welcome. And that's the one thing that we are doing as Embrace Life. We're embracing life, whether it's in the womb or outside the womb. Yes, I was really thrilled to see the number of individuals there in terms of making sure the diversity and that people of color, and especially African American, was taking that message, because our organization targets African Americans to really get involved, to understand what is happening when we're taking a life in the womb. And I think Joseph said eloquently in terms of this is one of our most moral issues right now that we're involved with today, is abortion. And you've heard a lot about Black Lives Matter, but Black Lives Matter in the womb, not just out of the womb. Black Lives Matter before, during, and after. And that's our goal, is to educate our community, make sure that they are aware of the support that is available, because the majority of them do not know. And we also feel as though when you know better, you'll do better. And therefore, we're reaching out to the churches, and all of us, as you know, it does take a village to raise a child. And all of us together, in terms of being pro-life, we're not talking about pro-life, we're talking about life, period. We want everyone to know how much God loves them and understand that we all are made in the image and likeness of God. So my biggest takeaway, once again, is the abundant life that we're talking about, understanding the church and the church role, and how the church has not been able to reach out like we need them to. We are going to continue to try to motivate, try to activate individuals in the churches to reach out more to individuals who need them in terms of helping them with fatherhood. Mm-hmm. Joseph said it as well as Terry. You know, whether you're going to co-parent or not, or whether you're going to be there with the mother of your child, it's important to have a man's perspective. One of the biblical things that came out of the session that I heard once again was, we're talking about the role of the father, but the father is responsible for raising the child. And that was key too, because we as women are told that that's our role. You know, the man is off working and doing other things, but it's our total responsibility. But that was something that resonated with me during the conference, was that the man is responsible for raising that child. And that is important for men to know and step up to the plate for their responsibility in helping make this family unit healthy. The breakdown of the family is the key as to what has happened to our society in the first place. And we need the churches to get involved to help change this. So everyone there, all the men there, I mean, it wasn't you come and you listen and take notes and then go back to your same routine. It was given marching orders to each of those men to go back and make a difference. It has to start somewhere.
So good. So good. Well, I want to thank everybody who joined us today for listening and learning more about what was offered at the men's conference. And we hope to see you again next week.